What's up, gamers? Welcome to Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 63. For anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast follows the journey of three busy gamers making their way to the Nova Open convention every year, playing games that they love, and balancing life with those games. This is episode 63, The Butcher, the Maker, the Electroshock Taker. This is our Wintermaw review. So we're going to review both warbands and both Rivals decks from the Warhammer Underworlds Wintermaw box. We want to say thank you to Games Workshop for sending us an advanced copy to review so that we can produce this content for you. My name is Jerod Johnson. Tonight I am joined by Trace Al Capone Hyde.
Where is the Lisan Al Gaib?
I don't know. In the sand in the desert somewhere, not frozen underground.
Oh.
Yep. And Jason Tabled New Murray.
Yeah, thanks GW for all this great content to review early. I really have calloused hands after looking at some of these models.
Oh, nice. It's a good one. So we just recorded like 2 nights ago, so we literally have not been up to anything. So we're not going to cover that.
What are you talking about? I haven't been up to stuff. I've been working, doing things.
Yeah. Not a lot.
Jason's
hobby-wise.
Freshly rhymed worm.
Ooh.
There's got to be some horrible puns in there with rhyme and worm.
Many.
So many. Anyway, so unfortunately we only got one copy, which meant that I was the only one with the rule book in hand. The models are in Trace's capable hands. He, as of our recording here on March 26th, he has finished the Brethren of the Bolt and is working furiously to finish up the Skinnerkin. We're excited for everybody to see those. It's kind of weird because when you listen to this, listener, you'll probably be able to see the models, but we can't see them now. Anyway.
That's great radio.
It is great radio.
That was like a last minute order.
What's even better radio is this difference that I found in the Death Gorge rulebook and the Wintermaw rulebook that is brand new. And it's in the activation step. So I'm looking at page 30. So you have all of the normal actions that you can take: move, attack, charge, guard, stun, barge. And then there is a new section. Well, the section's the same, but there's been some additions. You can instead use an activation step to make a player action. These don't involve your fighters. Instead, these actions allow your player to do something. Doing so uses one of your 4 activations for the phase. Players can make the following actions. They have names. Option number 1 is Venture. Draw 1 power card and add it to your hand. Option number 2 is Strategize. And this is the big change. Draw 1 objective card and add it to your hand. Then discard 1 objective card from your hand.
Oh wow, that's
a spicy change.
It is a spicy change.
Yeah. So
known information.
Previously, you had to discard a card, an objective card, before you drew a new one. So you didn't know what you were going to draw. Chances are you had one in mind that you were going to discard anyway, but you could draw into something that was even worse. And so now you get a little bit more agency in how that works out. And then, so that's the biggest thing that I found. I'm sure that other people have come through the book with more detail.
Wait, there's no cool name for the official pass action?
It is called Pass. You forfeit your activation. I know, right? We've got Venture, Strategize, and right? You can, yeah. I guess they couldn't call it forfeit because they'd be like, "I forfeit," and they'd be like, "Okay, cool. I'll clean up my toys because you just quit."
I would have called it like Ponder. I'm just going to sit here and ponder.
Venture, Strategize, and Ponder. I don't know. Maybe the next expansion the name will change. But anyway, so that's the biggest thing that I found. Not a whole lot else. Everything else makes sense. No changes as far as how moves work, pushes work, how line of sight works, deployment, Rivals, Nemesis, Relic, and Championship are all named formats in the rulebook, so that continues to be a thing. But everything else appeared to be the same. So that's all that all I found. I can't say we because you guys didn't get the book.
I didn't see it, but I mean, there's plenty in there to choose from.
Yeah. You're such a mess. So anyway, that's it for the intro, really. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about the Brethren of the Bolt. And we're back, and we are here to talk about one of the two newly released warbands from the Wintermaw box, the Brethren of the Bolt. This is 5 zealots for Sigmar. Their lore is pretty interesting. So when you get your rulebook in hand, I encourage you to read through their page. But just in brief, 4 of them are actually zealots. So these are worshippers of Sigmar who believe that if you get struck by lightning and survive, that makes you blessed by Sigmar. And so they have gone through this process. Some of them have been struck by lightning multiple times. The leader of the warband is actually 2 dudes in a trench coat, Pater Filius, and it is a father and a son. So I was, some Latin-esque in there, Pater Filius.
You mean Master Blaster for us common folk?
I do mean Master Blaster.
Thank you.
But the most interesting member of the warband to me is Scorch Jacob. He is a criminal that tried to steal from the Brethren, and they tried to electrocute him to death, but he didn't die. And so now he kind of just tags along and worships Sigmar in his own maddened way. So I thought that was interesting. And also they're considered like the zealot of zealots by other members of the Order of Azir. Some crazy people. But anyway, as per usual, we're not going to go through all of the fighter cards bit by bit, but we'll kind of run through things. But before we do that, they do have their own plot card. 2 rules on it. Crackling with Faith. Each friendly fighter from this warband begins the game inspired, which is
shocking.
Pretty fun. Shocking, even. Nice, Trace. Good one. And then they have the Holy Vessels ability. During a friendly fighter's attack action on their fighter card, this is a mistake that we made several times while theory crafting with this warband, trying to figure out what cards were going to work best. Other than scything attack actions, when first determining the distance between the attacker and the target by the shortest route, subtract 1 from the total distance for each hex counted that contains a friendly fighter. After that attack action is resolved, inspire each friendly fighter in a hex counted in this way. So basically you can chain your attacks through the rest of your warband, and if you chain an attack through your warband, you inspire them along the way. So that's their plot card. And then we've got the fighters. Pater Filius is the leader. He has a range 1 attack action and a range 3 attack action. He's move 3, 4 health, 1 shield. And he also inspires if he supported an attacker and is adjacent to the target. So you don't have to just channel through him to inspire.
Wait a minute. There's 2 inspire mechanics in this warband?
I know, right?
Oh, geez.
It's crazy.
Just for clarification, who runs Bartertown?
Master Blaster.
Okay. Just wanted to know.
Okay. It's a good thing we cleared this up. And then on his inspired side, which is where he starts, his range 1 attack is 3 smash for 2 damage with stagger, and his Bolt of Azir is range 3, 3 fury, 1 damage with cleave and crit Grievous 1. And he has the electrostatic discharge rule in the inspire step in a turn in which this fighter made 1 or more successful attack actions, uninspire this fighter. So all of the fighters have the electrostatic discharge rule. And then we can kind of go through Friar Galvic. Inspired is 3 smash for 2 damage with stagger and knockback. Uninspired, he goes to 2 smash for 2 damage. Soror Tazat. Inspired is 3 furies for 2 damage with stagger and a 2 fury for 2 damage scything attack. That drops to 3 furies for 1 damage when uninspired. And then Acolyte Arcus is range 2, 2 smash, 2 damage with ensnare and stagger. And that drops to range 2, 2 fury, 1 damage and ensnare. And then Scorched Jacob the criminal zealot is 3 fury, 2 damage, stagger, knockback 1, and that drops to 2 fury, 2 damage when he's uninspired. Galvik and Tazat are both 3 wounds each. Arcus and Jacob, I don't know. I'm never going to say it the same in this entire episode, and it's going to be great for everyone. Both have 2 wounds.
Did you cover that Galvik's a brawler?
I did not cover. Galvik is a brawler.
We haven't seen that keyword in a while.
We haven't.
He's a baller.
A brawler, a shot collar, a shock collar. He's wearing a shot collar.
I mean, we should just sing while we work. So
we should sing while we work. You're killing it, man.
So proud of himself.
He is super proud of himself. So anyway, what we're going to do next is go through our standard warband review when they get released. And so we're thinking about things in terms of a Rivals playstyle, new player perspective. What are the 3 objectives, gambits, and upgrades that you want to see in your hand early in the game to help get the ball rolling, and also potentially give you an idea of the playstyle. So Jason, Mr. Pun Master himself, why don't you start us out with an objective?
Don't make me a martyr, because it's a Bloodworks in here. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more surviving friendly fighters are vulnerable, which, not so easy, or uninspired. And I don't know about you, but I want to be shooting the lightning everywhere. So this is one for the first phase. If we can get somebody uninspired, typically that's going to happen given how accurate they are. And they survive the round.
Yep.
Right? 2 glory. That's a good start.
I think it's a great start.
I know. It's like a prime cut.
Trace, take us to the next one.
I got nothing to follow this man tonight. I'm picking Living Dynamo. Surge. Scores immediately after a friendly fighter's 3rd or subsequent action made in the same phase. Each action must be different in one of the following actions: move action, guard action, attack action, stun action, and or action printed on an upgrade card. So that does not exclude malevolent masks from this, which is kind of cool.
That is cool.
But this is basically just set a guard token and then make a charge.
Yep. Or a barge.
Or a barge.
You could barge and then attack.
You could barge and then attack, yeah.
Barge and go on guard. It's a lot of options.
But the way we used to do it back in the day was...
That's right. Ready for action. No, not ready for action.
Go on guard and then charge token.
Yep.
Yeah, go on guard and charge.
Yep.
And you get a glory because you're greedy.
Yeah, you are greedy. All right, so the last one that we want to see is Sparking Furor, which is what Jason is driving me into with all of these puns. This is a Surge duel. Score this immediately after an activation step if your warband made 1 or more successful attack actions in that step. Seems fairly likely given how accurate they are. And 2 or more was subtracted from the total distance between the attacker and the target by the Holy Vessel's ability for 1 or more of those attack actions. So that's the trickier part to set up, but it is a surge that's worth 2 glory. So you just have to channel your attack through 2 fighters. And bada bing, bada boom. You get 2 glory.
Yeah, the thought there, right, is in deployment, you may be able to set that up.
Yeah. And then Paterphilius Inspired has a range 3 attack action. And it just has to be successful. Like, doesn't have to take anybody out of action. So, if you channel a range 3 attack through 2 fighters, it's now a range 5 attack action. Yeah.
5. Just
5. 2 plus 3 is 5.
Yeah. They worded to take 1 away, but just like add 1 is just as easy.
Yeah. Yep. So those are the objectives that we want to see early. Going into gambits, Jason?
Well, I'm sorry that I keep bringing up other cards. I'm just really trying to tenderize the meat before we get there so we're ready to go. But when it comes to gambits, I think I'm going to go with the Final Spark. Because it really could be the final countdown. I'm not sure, but this one is Final Spark reaction. Play this after an activation step in which one or more enemy fighters were dealt damage by an inspired friendly fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack action. Choose one of those enemy fighters, deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter. Wow. That's pretty
range
cool.
Restriction?
No range restriction. Just after an activation step.
Yep.
And like they're already being dealt damage.
Yep. Spicy.
Boom.
I like it. All right, I'll take the next one. Furious Abandon. Choose a friendly fighter. Push the chosen fighter up to 2 hexes. The chosen fighter must end that push adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters. I mean, it's a push. We all love a push. And then the Holy Vessels means that now you're able to subtract at least 1 distance. 1 from the distance for the attack that targets that enemy fighter because you got somebody adjacent to him. Seems pretty good.
It's very good.
What you like,
but
Trace?
Not as good as Unleashing His Fury. Choose an inspired friendly fighter. Uninspire the chosen fighter. Then choose an enemy fighter that is within 2 hexes of the chosen fighter. Deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter.
Out. Can we talk about the flavor text on this one?
Yes. Fry, you filth, fry! Roar to Zat.
It's so good.
That one hurts my brain.
Why does that hurt your brain?
It's like choose an enemy fighter within 2 of chosen fighter.
Of the original,
Get it.
You got it. You're there.
Got it.
We're on
there.
it. Nice.
I'm good because like this is also another card that doubles down, right? So the previous card we had, you could do an additional damage to an attack you just made. Now you made the attack, you uninspired, and you're doing another damage.
Yeah. Or if you channeled it through somebody, then you can pick somebody that you channeled through, uninspire them, and do one. So you could.
That's where my brain went. You channel through a dude to do 2 damage.
Yep.
You do a damage to the dude you attacked.
Yeah, you hit him with Final
Spark. The dude
Spark.
that you channeled through inspires, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to uninspire that guy and deal another damage." So you've dealt 4 damage.
Bam. Boom. Roasted.
Boom.
Literally. Oh, this
fry, you filth, fry.
Fry, you filth, fry. Indeed. All right. When we're looking at upgrades, I think early we want Burgeoning Saint. Although this does go counter to what we were just talking about. This is a super potent card for this warband that's super accurate when they're inspired. Burgeoning Saint says this fighter cannot be uninspired. So even when they make successful attack actions, they're not going to uninspire. I think the subtle thing here is you can still play it early, make that initial successful attack action, maintain the uninspired condition even with this upgrade on. Because you put it on while uninspired, you're just uninspired. It doesn't say that you inspire the fighter. And then the next time they inspire, then they can maintain that inspired state, which is, I think, the real power of this card, is that it doesn't change the fact that you're uninspired when you put it on. It just means that you stay inspired once you get inspired.
Yeah, because being inspired will block a lot of the other synergies in the deck, right?
Yeah.
So, but having Master Blaster inspired the whole game's real nice.
Yep. Faux show. 3 smash, 2 damage, 3 fury, 1 damage, cleave, and crit Grievous 1. Can't be mad about that. Jason?
Yeah, I'm a powerhouse. So when resolving this fighter's attack action, when determining the distance between the attacker and the target, subtract 1 from the total distance for each hex counted that contains an enemy fighter. Holy frying pan, I can shoot through my own guys and I can shoot through your guys. I'm attacking the whole board. Yeah. This is pretty sweet. I just like it. It's cool.
That's amazing. Like, what a cool mechanic. All right, Trace, take us home, and then we got one more. We got a bonus.
All this talk about channeling through fighters has got me having some holy spasms. Woo. So this is a reaction. Jesus. Use this after this fighter is inspired or uninspired. Push this fighter 1 hex.
Yeah.
So you're just this, as you can see through a lot of the things we've talked through already. There's lots of ways to flip these cards back and forth, inspired, uninspired. So every time you do that, you get to push. And one of those pushes might just end you next to a dude to make it easier for somebody else to channel through them. It's just
pretty sweet.
It's a pretty slick. It's a pretty slick card.
It is. It's like one for you and one for me, and it's all good.
Yeah, all the pushes. So we would be remiss as Battle Mallet Podcast to not provide a +1 wounds upgrade as an upgrade option. Jason has already mentioned his very broad shoulders. +1 wounds. What's not to love? It is restricted to Dezat, Galvic, Arcus, or Jacob. So you're looking at moving a 2-wound fighter to 3 or a 3-wound fighter to 4. But if one or more friendly leaders are out of action, this fighter is a leader and a priest. So now all of your leader restricted and priest restricted cards are still viable.
Yeah, and one of them becomes the head chef.
That's right. And yeah, some of those leader restricted and priest restricted cards are pretty good. Yeah, so that covers the cards. Play style. I think this is positional aggro. You got to get all of your little dudes in their little conga line as you make your attacks to be able to channel other attacks through to move through that inspire, uninspire mechanic and just watch the lights turn on and off and on and off and on and off.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this warband is even more positional aggro than normal because of the way that their channeling stuff works. It makes it super cool.
And then they also have some... It is cool. I interrupted you, and then you froze. That was fun.
I froze?
Yeah, for just like a split second.
No, I paused because you started talking.
Oh, okay.
Because that's how my life goes. So what I would say is that the thing about this is why it's so positionally important is because it's not only positionally important for you, it's positionally important for your opponent because you have to think about where all the attacks are coming from. Because it's not immediately apparent. And that's not immediately apparent to you as somebody who's using it for the first or second time.
Yeah.
So,
and the Holy Vessels rule does say that you have to draw the line through the shortest route. So you can't like zigzag through fighters.
What?
To try to channel and inspire extra people, even though you can reduce the distance by channeling through people. Like, yeah, I think that makes sense. Sigmar's lightning doesn't arc everywhere you want it to go. He is more about smiting his enemies than blessing his foes or his worshippers, I guess. Yeah, so more thinking about boards. Probably want something mid-board deployment so that you're not totally vulnerable. Not keyword vulnerable, but putting yourself in too much danger. But you also want to think about having 1 or 2 hexes towards the front for the 3-wound fighters so that you have spots to channel your other attacks through.
Yeah, the other thought I had, and I don't, given the fact that they're 3 move, I do not know if it works. I actually have to get them on the table and see how much I want to get into the opponent's territory. But if you hallway with this warband, like your enemy cannot go anywhere that I'm not zip-zapping you.
That's true.
It's just...
The movement and the range is going to hurt you a little bit because Phileas is the only one that has a range 3 and Arcus is the only one that has a range 2. So you'd have to get a nice conga line to really take advantage of the hallway.
The Tortured Coil has 3 up front. And if I'm deploying in hallway, it's actually 4 up front through a cover hex. Like I'm shooting like 2 deep into enemy territory off the jump. But I don't know, like if you play against a passive opponent that's just going to sit in the back of the board, I
Right.
don't know if they can get there and leverage their zippity zaps.
Yeah, the move 3 is probably going to hinder them a little bit there. But I like that idea. I want to see you toy with that. You are a fan of the hallway in general.
I am. People are not always expecting it, and I like to make it very uncomfortable to fit on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, that tracks. What are you going to do if you see this warband sitting across from you, Jason?
Go to Bartertown.
I mean, and?
I'm just going to kill them. They do have squishy fighters. I think the thing that you really have to look out for is the setup, is that position. Pick the one that is least likely for them to channel through if they've made a mistake with their positioning, and then just farm them. Like, it's okay. And like I was just talking about, if you can make them come to you, you're probably going to break their chain mid turn 1 or mid turn 2. And then you could even like double down and take out the second fighter and then leave another one kind of out there just in the wind. They're still accurate when they become inspired, but they have to have supporting fighters to re-inspire.
Yeah.
Again, that's why that card of being always inspired is so important. Because if you break the chain and stop them from inspiring, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're all on one single defense die. So as soon as you throw an accurate attack into that, there's a good chance it's going to get through. Well, we'll stick with you, Jason. What's one Nemesis deck pairing you're looking at?
I guess Void Curse, just for the extra position to re-establish those chains. So that's where I would go.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Trace, you had another one?
Yeah. So all these fighters have at least a range 1 attack action or a range 2 attack action. So I'm interested in looking at some Tooth and Claw pairing too, because all those range 1 attack actions can then be magically buffed to +1 damage, +2 damage, or +1 dice and -1 defense dice because you don't. Okay, doesn't matter. We got 1 defense dice anyway. So they can become savage. There's some decent push tech. There's another ping card in Tooth and Claw as well. The only thing that worries me about Tooth and Claw is it wants you to be in enemy territory. And I don't know that that's where all these guys want to live. I think they kind of want to sit more mid-board probably. But yeah, that was my thought, was Tooth and Claw, just to try. Yeah. There's also Breakneck Slaughter too, because there's some plus damage, plus dice in there too.
Yeah. That one's always tough with anything that's positional.
Yep.
But you might be able to work around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, you don't care if the one that was doing the attacking gets shunted away because they've already channeled through and inspired everybody. Mm-hmm. All right, Jason, hit us with your new player rating hot take here, bud.
I'll hit you with my best shot. That wasn't a card from the other warband. Just making stuff up now because I'm still singing. I think this warband is gold.
Gold is not a conductive material, sir.
No.
Dude, gold is super conductive. I'm just kidding. You are wrong.
So the reason it's a hot take, and we talked a lot about positioning, and normally we would not put a positional warband into the gold status for a new player. But the reason that I think it's gold is because they all start inspired. So you're just getting really accurate attacks and basically 2 damage across the board for charging. So even if you don't set up the positions to re-inspire them or to channel through people, like, they're really accurate warband where you can just go forward and take out people. So that's why I think it's a new player gold. I think that to really leverage them and become super efficient with them, you go away from that strategy of just always be charging, but you're not going to have a bad time if you're a new player just going for it.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I mean, so probably a warband that has a low floor, but I think they've got a really high ceiling too. Like if you can mitigate the low wounds and work around that and nail the positioning.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
I think this warband's going to be able to do some work.
Well, not to mention all the free damage that's in here.
Yeah, true. And once you start making it Nemesis, that could get even spicier. Cool. Well, that's it for the Brethren of the Bolt. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will talk about the Skinnerkin. And we're back, and we're here to talk about the Summer King's most royal of chefs, and sous chefs, and washer bats, the Skinnerkin. So this is a Flesh Eater Courts warband, and their whole thing is cutting the choicest pieces of meat to take back to the Summer King's feast, so that he can entertain all of his guests, from the lowliest of peasants to the mightiest of knights, and everyone in between. And so, I mean, that's their whole shtick. Is they want to collect.
In the lore, does it give examples of what they're actually envisioning cutting up? Like, is it wild animals or?
I mean, you kind of have to imagine that that's what they do. So we'll go on a slight tangent here. I have been reading all of the Gotrek books, and one of those books is Ghoul Slayer, and so he's always fighting some other force in the mortal realms. And in Ghoul Slayer, he's fighting against the Flesh Eater Courts, and so there are chapters from the perspective of the Flesh Eater Courts, and it basically reads as if it's from the point of view of like a Bretonnian knight. So the giant Vargeists and Vargulfs think that they are mounted knights on horses. All of the little ghouls running around think that they're men-at-arms. And so in their heads, they are like rescuing the princess, and they are, like sacking the evil king's fortress or the evil wizard's fortress or whatever. So you have to imagine that that's what they see themselves doing, is they're just on the hunt and they see a pack of wild deer or whatever. And, like if in their minds, if you cut the meat off while it's still alive, like that's the freshest meat that you can find. And so that's what they're about. It's just, that they know that the beast is going to die eventually, but they're not as worried about actually killing the beast. They just want the best pieces of meat off of it. And the one thing from the book that was mentioned is that the reason that they are in the Wintermaw is because it is so cold that the meat is basically flash frozen, and it will stay fresh longer.
Delicious.
All right. So that's the whole reason that they figure they can get the best meat, take it back to the Summer King, and it'll stay fresh because it was flash frozen by the Wintermaw, by the Everwinter curse.
And these brave Kniggets can go and use their coconut horses to take the meat back to town. Yeah. That's the delusion that they're living in. Yeah. Yeah. They're amazing. Yeah, just knocking it out of the park, lore-wise, sculpt-wise, I think, too. They just look really cool. So, 5-fighter warband. We have Grisla Tinderhook. She is the only 4-wound fighter in the warband. She is on 1 shield, whether she's inspired or uninspired. The entire warband inspires when you have 3 or more haunch counters.
Hunks of meat.
Well, I'm glad you asked. How do you get haunch counters? Well, there are several ways. So 2 fighters, Grisla and Young Master Crutch, have a crit prime cut ability on their on-fighter attack actions, and that is if you roll a crit after the determined success step, gain 1 haunch counter. So it's not a reaction. This is just an ability, and it tells you when that happens. It is a crit, so I guess you could opt not to do it if you needed to. And then both Grisla and Young Master Crutch have the fillet reaction on their fighter cards, and that is reaction after this fighter's successful range 1 attack action, gain 1 haunch counter. So that means for both Grisla and Young Master Crutch, if you have a successful critical attack, you're going to get 2 haunch counters, which puts you well on your way to getting 3 haunch counters.
But when it says after the determined success step, if it was negative, right, like it wasn't successful, I still would get 1 though, right? Because it doesn't, that if I rolled a crit, the prime cut part would still fire if it wasn't a success.
Oh, Jason.
See, I've distracted him now. He's got to go to the book.
Determined success after the determined success step.
Yes.
So you can only use a critical ability
If I roll a crit.
if it is successful.
Okay.
So hit, attack action succeeds, critical hit instead if attacker rolled 1 or more criticals. But it still has to be a successful attack to trigger a critical ability. Unless they change that.
Don't believe you.
All right.
I really don't know. Like
This is good radio of me flipping through the book. All right.
It just would be like,
okay.
It'd be really cool if that was the way.
I know. Unfortunately, it's not. Critical abilities are used after step 4 of the combat sequence. Step 4 of the combat sequence is the determined success step. So we're still talking about the same thing. The attacker's player can use their fighter's critical abilities if the attack action resulted in a critical hit. And a critical hit is a hit with
a successful hit.
Yeah, a hit. Yeah, a successful attack action with 1 or more critical rolls. So sadly, you don't get to just get a haunch counter even if the attack didn't go through, which thematically I guess makes sense, right? Like if the blade didn't cut, you're not getting any meat from anywhere. I mean, they're delusional. I don't think they're that delusional. But if you do get a critical hit with either of these 2 fighters, you do get 2 haunch counters. It's fairly likely with Grisla with her 3 Fury attack action. It's slightly less likely with Young Master Crutch because he's on 2 Smash. Both of them are doing 2 damage. Grisla, when she inspires, she goes to 4 Fury with Cleave. Still has Prime Cut. And still has the Fillet reaction for 2 damage. Crutch, I guess when he gets inspired, he's like, I don't know, super excited. Because his damage goes up, but his accuracy goes down. So he goes to 2 Furies for 3 damage. Retaining the Prime Cut critical ability and also gaining Cleave. So, anyway. So after those 2 fighters, we have Flint's Master Pudrig, who is a brawler. Grisla is all of these fighters are hunters.
All hunters.
All hunters.
They're on the hunt.
Flint's Master Pudrig and Cedric the Chain are both brawlers. They have 3 wounds each. Flint's Master Pudrig has Parrying Blades, 3 Furies, 1 damage with the Flay reaction after an adjacent enemy fighter is taken out of action, gain 1 haunch counter. So I guess somebody dies next to him, he starts cutting off the choice pieces of meat. And then Cedric the Chain has a range 3, 2 Fury, 1 damage attack action, and a range 1, 3 Fury, 1 damage scything attack action. With Entangling Chains, while this fighter has 1 or more charged tokens, plus 1 dice to range 1 attack actions supported by this fighter. So that's an interesting rule. It's not something that we've seen before. So if you can charge next to somebody and stay there, then people are going to get extra dice. And that could be critical for, I see what I did there. Getting that Prime Cut to go off.
Yeah. And for Crutch, right?
Yeah.
And I think it represents him having the meat hooks into you and just kind of holding you close.
Yep. Yeah. But if you can get away from him, he obviously can't do that. And then we have the last, but certainly not least, probably the best fighter in this warband, and that is the Karnskier. Yeah. It is like a mini Vargeist.
It is the bestest.
It is super cool. So it is move 5, 3 wounds, 3 Fury, 1 damage, but it has this Grasping Talons reaction. Reaction after this fighter's move action, roll 1 magic dice for an enemy fighter whose hex this fighter moved through. on a channel, deal 1 damage to that fighter and gain 1 haunch counter. So that's a 50-50 chance of just gaining a haunch counter and doing 1 damage just for moving through an enemy fighter. Otherwise, you can push that enemy fighter up to 1 hex. So, I mean, that seems pretty cool.
Yeah, the fact that it's a move, so you can charge, move over them, right, and still attack them for the 1 damage. You can move through them, do that to somebody to do a damage and get a haunch counter and like attack somebody else. I guess the only downside here is the other fighters have a way to get your hunk of meat counters just by attacking and removing. I guess that's not the case with Cedric the Entertainer, but the other ones do.
Yeah. Well, Flintsmaster only does it if an adjacent enemy fighter is taken out of action. So either he could do it or if he's
somebody
supporting
else.
the attack.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following now.
Yeah.
But those grasping talons, I think, are going to be very important to what at least my plan is for this warband, which we'll talk about in the pairings.
Yeah. What is of note is that the main fighters start at 4 move and go to 5 move when they're inspired. So they're not slow, which I think is going to help with some of the things that this warband wants to do.
No, and they have 3 wounds.
Yeah.
All of them. Well, except the leader, but
so
not having that 2 wound easy target is okay.
It's worked out fairly well for me with Velmore, so
yes.
We'll see how it goes with these Skinnerkin. What do we want to see early, objective-wise, Jason?
I want to sing while I work.
Yeah, you do. You've been doing it all night anyway.
So Surge duel, score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action if that was the 3rd or subsequent range 1 or range 2 attack actions made by a friendly fighter in the same phase, and each of those attacks was made in a different activation. The reason I want this early is I want 3 fighters to be able to do this, and this warband is kind of always be charging, so let's do it.
Yep. And you've got a good shot, right? Between, Cedric's got a range 3 attack action. They're all move 4, other than the leader.
Can't use the range 3. It's got to be range 1 or range 2.
Range 1 or 2. My bad.
But
they're all move 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bat is flying for 5.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
And they don't have to be successful. Just make those attack actions.
Yep. That's the exact same objective from Malevolent Masks, which we also really liked. Trace, what else do we want?
I have a last minute order. I know we're about
to
close. I know the restaurant's about to close, so please don't spit in my food. So this is a Surge duel. Score this immediately after an activation step if 2 or more friendly fighters each have 1 or more charge tokens and you have scored 1 or more objectives.
Nice. This could happen at the same time as Sing While You Work.
Sure could.
It could.
I think you missed the window for the 3rd attack action. Because you haven't scored it until after the activation is ended. But you'll score it the following activation, as long as you have 2 or more friendly fighters with 1 or more charge tokens.
Correct. I would already have to have an objective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's going to auto-score.
As long as they survive with charge tokens.
That's right. Fair enough. They got 3 wounds each.
Well,
we're banking on here.
It would score at the same time because I have to have 3, right? Turn 1, I have to charge 3 times to make attacks, 3 times. Just in theory, that would be the easiest way.
Right.
Right? So, but it still would have to be there. I'd have to have an objective there. Yeah. So I'm scoring at turn 4 if I only have those 2.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, but there's hope. We could tenderize the meat. This is a Surge duel. Score this immediately after an activation step if 1 or more friendly fighters made 1 or more successful attack actions and the attack roll contained no critical successes.
Ooh.
So this is
the perfect card. You want to know why?
Because it's going to force you to roll crits.
Yes, having this card in your hand will the crits to come.
It is the opposite of headshot or whatever the universal one was.
Yeah, this is...
Yeah.
I like that, and this has been a long time since we picked up 3 surges for Warband.
It has been a long time.
Been a minute.
So, kind of like that. We try to get an end phase, but this Warband just wants to go, and I think they fit nicely.
Yeah, and a lot of the end phases require the haunch counters, and that's probably going to require 3 or more haunch counters. And I think it's honestly going to take more than one action phase to get all of them, unless you get super lucky in your draw. So speaking of super lucky draw, Jason, what do we want for gambits?
Listen, the king hungers.
He does hunger.
+1 dice for the first range 1 attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation. We always like plus dice, but wait, there's more. +2 dice instead if you have no haunch counters.
Oof.
So if this is early...
That's hot.
I mean, she's coming in...
5 dice.
5 dice. Now, anyone that Potion of Rage, you know that 5 dice is like the cursed amount of dice.
That's right.
But +2 dice is so spicy, and it is statistically where you want to be to get some crits. So
yeah. Yep. Trace, what
you
else?
can get out of my larder, sir.
Fair enough.
Get out of it. There's tasty meats in there that needs you to not touch with your grubby hands. Choose a friendly beast or brawler. The chosen fighter makes a move action.
Oh. Do
There's
you know who likes to make move actions?
that biggity bat.
The Karn Skier.
Yeah,
This is also a good way to set up Cedric.
that's right.
Oh, yeah. He charges, and then you move him. Because it gets to bypass the restriction.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am certainly an aspiring artisan. Choose a friendly fighter. If you have no haunch counters, you can re-roll each dice in the attack roll for the first attack action made by the chosen fighter in the next activation. If you have 1 or more haunch counters, you can re-roll 1 dice in the attack roll of the first attack action made by the chosen fighter in the next activation. Oh my gosh. 5 dice.
with full
re-roll
rerolls.
all.
Get it all. Get it. Get it.
What's the 2 crit objective?
Oh my
It
goodness.
doesn't exist anymore. You're going to think of it in like 3 minutes. It'll be great.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I literally cannot remember it. And I know that all the listeners are like, oh, this one.
They're all screaming it right now.
So let me just pull up any of my Godsworn Hunt decks, and I'll find it.
From the past, yeah. All right, while he's looking that up, Trace, why don't you hit us with an upgrade?
Sure. Calloused Hands. Let me see if I can find that card. There it is. -1 damage to a minimum of 1 from attack actions that target this fighter. After this fighter is dealt damage, break this card and gain 1 spent glory point.
I mean, I don't like that the -1 damage doesn't persist.
But you get a glory.
You do get a glory. So you get points. Scoring.
Yeah. How do we win this game?
By scoring points.
That's right.
Yep. All right. Jason's still researching. So
I'll go again. It's fine.
Oh, I was going to talk about Midden Heap Scavenger.
You go for it, you Midden Heap Scavenger.
I will. So this is restricted to a beast. So it can only go on Karnskier, or I guess if you pair it with Tooth and Claw, you can shake things up a lot. Ooh, spicy. Rolls of block are successes in this fighter's defense rolls, but you also gain an action. Action, you gain a haunch counter. Then give this fighter a charge token. So you could put this on the bat. You could use that gambit that we just talked about, get out of my larder to move the bat over somebody.
Yep.
Roll your magic die, try to get a haunch counter. And then in their activation, you could move them again, try to get another haunch counter. And then in a subsequent activation, you could take this action and and get all the haunch counters and potentially have done 2 damage to a fighter. Otherwise, you're just pushing them around, pushing them all over the place.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's a very good one.
You found it yet, Jason?
Peerless Fighter.
Peerless Fighter.
God, it's going to bother me. I played that so much.
Yeah, you did.
So we have Calloused Hands.
Min Heap Scavenger.
And then we have the Practiced Butcher. And this one's a little, probably a little controversial, but I really want, the reason that I picked this one, and I think it's good, is because I want to be inspired by the end of turn 1. And I want to do whatever I can possibly can to hedge those bets. So this is reaction. Use this at the end of the action phase. If this fighter is adjacent to 1 or more enemy fighters, roll 1 magic dice. On the roll of a channel or crit, choose one of those enemy fighters, deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter, and gain a haunch counter. Yes, it's a beautiful way to do an extra damage. And if you don't get it early, this card also loses its value because there's only 3 ends of the action phases. So I want to get it there early, and I want to make sure that I inspire my warband going into turn 2. It also plays in heavily with my bat, my Vargeist, that I'm just going to continue to move around the board, dealing 1 damage to everybody and rolling Grasping Talons to try to get those haunch counters. Channels.
Yep. I like it.
Call Jason Batman.
We should.
You want to see my Batwing?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I do not. Trace, what's the play style? What are we thinking?
This is more of like your throwback traditional aggro of just trying to get in there and get busy.
Yeah.
There's some positional stuff with the bat, but other than that, you just want to try and get in and take heads, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's reminiscent of like Garrick's Reavers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Magore's Fiends, Godsworn Hunt. Although Jason always had something spicy going on with Godsworn Hunt, not running them pure aggro. But
I just can't. Pure aggro? What is that?
Yeah, you can't do it. What boards do we want, Jason?
Mid to front. The nice thing about this, and we touched on it in their fighter cards, are the R3 wound fighters. So typically when you have this type of move, I would say mid board and run up and run across so you don't give those easy targets. But in this case, you might be able to put somebody up on the front line, take a hit, and then punch back. Remember, we're trying to maximize our rolls. So even if they come in and hit somebody and they survive, maybe they're still next to them, they don't drive them back, you get those additional supports, or you get the additional benefits of them being next to you. That's really what you're looking for. You're looking for just maximum carnage. And if somebody deploys back, now we're up front and we can run in and still get them and try to achieve our objective. The only one I don't put up front is the bat. I probably put him mid. I still want to get over fighters. I want to fly over them. But to my strategy, the bat is super important, which if I'm sitting across from you, Jerod, what are you going to do?
I'm going to take out the bat. I'm going to take out Kretch, and I'm going to take out Grisla. So the people that have the easiest access to getting those haunch counters, just because either their accuracy or their damage goes up fairly significantly once they inspire. So once they get those haunch counters, they're probably going to be able to just murder you. And so if you can get them down early, prevent them from inspiring, it's a lot like Crack Marrow's crew in that regard, right? Like those Flesh Eater Courts were a lot easier to take down when they were not inspired, and they were much less dangerous. So it was often worth it to be more aggressive than you needed to be when fighting them so that they didn't inspire. And I think you're going to see something similar here. Nemesis pairings. Jason, you're going to shock us with your choice here.
It's not shocked. It's just Void Curse Thralls, and I am Void Cursing the Bat or the Vargeist, and given their in-faction move card, right? So get out of my larder. Given the upgrade,
The repression reactions and repression priorities.
yeah. And we have the additional move ploy in Void Curse, like a Void Curse fighter makes a move. I think that, I mean, he's just going to be flying and flapping everywhere.
It's been a whole power step just bouncing around.
And, you know, getting my Inspire going as well as doing damage, right? Like, it's not like I don't, like, this is very beneficial, and the odds are really good. You don't get to roll a defense dice, and it's like 66% chance I'm getting a success.
50.
No.
50. Just channels. It's just channels.
No, and crits.
The upgrade is crits. Did I ruin
No, you're right. Damn, ruined my...
I know.
So,
I mean, but it's still a 50-50.
Still 50-50.
And if you don't hit it, you're still pushing them. So you're getting them out of position.
Yeah, you're getting benefit. I just really like it. I want to build around it. And then late game, you can still use those to get him to position to support. Or if he does go down, then you're getting the same benefit of the additional move with the other two, Putrid and Cedric, where we just get what? Why are you laughing? I'm,
so good at names.
Pew something. There you go.
Pew pew.
Pew pew laser beams or knives that are everywhere. And getting them into different positions. And even if you have to void curse your leader, that's not a bad thing either. So
yeah. Yep. And Trace, you had another one.
Tooth and Claw.
Yeah.
Like all range one. There's some extra movement shenanigans in there, pushing around and extra dice.
I mean, they're probably going to be savage anyway.
Yep.
Because they'll be charging, and so you can.
Yep.
Yeah. Do all the extra damage. Cool. And then when it comes to new player rating, I think just because they are like your traditional aggro, for a new player, I think they do have a gold rating. I think that if you are charging and attacking and doing the things on the fighter cards, you're probably going to meet the conditions of the objectives. So like the deck will work. There is some reliance on successful attack actions to actually get the punch counters. But you can't control that. It doesn't change how easy the warband is to play. That being said, don't know that we can call this a gold warband competitively for new players, just because I think there's a lot more that goes into it that's going to make it successful than just always be charging. And
we've seen this. We've seen this book before, right? We've eaten at this restaurant. We've had this meal.
Yep.
When you're reliant on crits, it sometimes just does not work.
Yep.
And given that someone on this podcast loves that warband,
I know, I'm excited.
It's a struggle. So,
So the only parting thought that I will leave us with is I want to know who Gourmet Rib Splitter is, because he has a bunch of quotes from his cookbook on all of the cards. So, are we going to get a new Flesh Eater Court model after the recent Flesh Eater Court wave?
Yes, chef.
Yes, chef. Nice.
That was the chef's kiss right there.
That was chef's kiss. All right, cool. So we'll take a break here, and when we come back, we will talk about Rimewyrm's Bite.
And we're back. And welcome to Rin's World, where we have the Crimson... No. Rhymes word? Rhymes? Rin's? Rimewyrm's Bite.
Nailed it.
So this is a Rivals Universal deck that we are going to go through real quick. And I don't even know what to say because it doesn't have a plot card.
It doesn't.
Which means it's not plot plot lock for our wonderful championship players, but I don't really have a really good read on this one. So where do we even start? Like, what objectives do we think that this deck is going to fire off of, Trace?
Well, this deck is definitely deadly to all.
I think so too.
Yes.
This is a surge objective. Score this immediately after an activation step or power step in which 2 or more fighters were each dealt damage.
Nice.
Okay. So
charge through a lethal hex and make a successful attack action. Done.
One scything attack.
Done.
Or you scurry 2 fighters through
the same lethal hex.
What? Amazing. We're back in the day. We're taking a calculated risk right here, boys.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, you could dance dynamic a couple of zombies through.
You could do
lethal
that as well.
hex.
Yep, there's some shenanigans to do it in one activation.
Sepulchral Warden could do his little thing.
Do the waltz.
We got it.
All right, awesome. So we've started this off with some deadly to all. Where do we want to go next, Jerod?
Well, I don't know where we're going, but we're going to be gone without a trace.
Wait a minute.
Not
like
without
trace.
Not without a trace. TRACE.
Okay.
Y'all go without the trace all the time. It's fine.
That's not. This is a surge. Score this immediately after a fighter was taken out of action by damage dealt by your warband's power card. If that fighter was an enemy fighter and the damage was dealt by a friendly domain card, gain 1 additional spent glory point. So, yeah. So, at face value, this doesn't look that great, but it just so happens that there are a lot of power cards in this deck that do damage.
So far we're 2 into it. It sounds like we really want some ping, some sort of way to deal multiple damage out of our power deck.
Yep.
That's really cool. And I do kind of like it's like a glory and a half, right? It's like you get a glory, it's a surge, but if you did it with a domain, here's your other half of that glory.
Yep.
All right. And the final one, I'm just all about the Ruinous Aftermath. It's another surge. Score this immediately after a friendly domain card was discarded as a result of another domain card being played. Well, I think we need some domains here, gentlemen.
I think we do.
I really hope we pick some in the gambits.
I don't think this is a hard thing to achieve in this deck if you're running it.
I think we got this.
So what's the first one you want to select, Jerod?
Heaving Ground.
Oh, it's heaving.
Heaving Ground. After an activation step in which 1 or more staggered fighters are driven back, deal 1 damage to each of those staggered fighters. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another domain gambit is played. It doesn't have to be an enemy fighter, so you could stagger your own fighter and get dealt damage. I don't know why you would want to do that, but you could.
Well, we better have a way to deal out some stagger. Trace, do you have anything?
I got you. I'm going to score Ruinous Aftermath by playing Unstable Footing after playing Heaving Ground. Domain. After a fighter makes a super action, stagger that fighter. If that fighter is already staggered, deal 1 damage to that fighter. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another domain gambit is played.
Nice.
Sweet.
So, I do want to point out that Gone Without a Trace does not say immediately after an enemy fighter was taken out of action.
Does not.
Does not. So this is calculated risk and martyred all over again.
I mean, there are some combos that could lead to some shenanigans.
There's some shenanigans here for sure.
Yep. So what do we want next, Jason?
I really want the right bait.
I mean, that seems pretty important.
Just choose a friendly fighter and an enemy fighter, each of which are adjacent to the chosen fighter. Deal 1 damage to the chosen enemy fighter. If either chosen fighter is within 1 hex of a hazard hex, stagger the chosen enemy fighter.
There you go.
I think
deal damage, stagger them, and then drive them back. Boom. Done.
Whole
all
lot
the
of
damage.
combos.
Can't go fishing for Rimewyrms without the right bait.
That's true.
One of note, and Really because it kind of goes into these other things that we were talking about with these 3 gambits. It is another domain. It's called Deadly Wards. It makes starting hexes and hexes that contain objective tokens are now lethal hexes in addition to other types. This effect persists until a lethal hex deals damage to a fighter, until the end of the round, or until another domain gambit is played. So that is really cool too, and kind of feeds into the objectives of this deck of getting a whole bunch of lethals on the board.
Yeah.
It is also by far one of my favorite cards of all time with the art. So,
I mean, fair.
It's fair. And I'm not going to tell you. You have to go to our blog to see the art. So
there
check
we go.
it out.
It's nice.
All right. So we have the right bait. We're heaving the ground. We're on unstable footing. What kind of upgrades do you want, Jerod?
Well, you can stabilize that footing with some Boots of Warding.
What?
This fighter cannot be dealt damage by power cards or lethal hexes.
This might be the best upgrade card. Like, you can't be dealt damage by
power cards. So no spells, no gambits, like all of the pings.
The pings. Just no.
Don't work.
Don't want. You better break this upgrade if you want to damage me with the power card.
Yeah.
I really, really like that.
That's really good.
Trace, what's next?
Earth-Shattering Tread. While this fighter has 1 or more charge tokens and or move tokens, other fighters treat hexes adjacent to this fighter as lethal hexes, in addition to other hex types.
Yikes.
Charge. Then you're basically Thundrick.
Yes. Yeah. You are basically Thundrick.
You have added 6 lethal hexes to the board.
I mean, the other thing too is, like, for your fighters, as we were already talking about, like, killing ourselves, you just move this person into the center of your guys and then move your fighters through your own created lethal hexes. But maybe you don't want to hurt people. Maybe you don't want them to be done to get damage to them. So I'm going to select the upgrade Tough Enough. Now, this cannot be given to a large fighter. We all love that when it's on a card. But if this fighter cannot be... I'm sorry. Let me restart. This fighter cannot be dealt precisely 1 damage. Unless that damage would take this fighter out of action. I also like that little one too, right? Like, if you're on your last leg, goodbye. But a really cool upgrade, again, in ping meta, for if you're playing into a large casting warbands or a lot of that single damage cards. Really cool upgrade here.
Nice.
So what kind of play style is this? And this is odd because normally we default to kind of the warband, but this has a very specific play style. Jerod?
Yeah, so we didn't cover this in the objectives that we picked, but there's a lot in here that deals with being in enemy territory. And so between being in enemy territory and having to damage fighters, whether that's yours or your opponent's, I think we're going to call this invading aggro. You want to get into enemy territory and do damage.
Do it to it?
Do it to it.
Fantastic. Well, when it comes to boards, we want whatever our warband needs. Maybe we throw in a lethal or a snare. For our objectives, we want... Oh, wrong one. Bam.
No, you're right.
No, that's not.
Yes.
We want
hazard hexes.
We want hazard hexes.
Hazard hexes. That's true. Not just lethals or snares.
Not just lethal. We want hazard hexes.
That could be blocked hexes.
It could.
Snare hexes. Cover hexes.
Because it is aggro, we might want some starting right on the line type of hexes, starting hexes as well, but always default to your warband. When it comes to playing against this deck, we're still figuring it out, to be honest. So just play your game. Yeah. Any nemesis pairings though, Trace? Like, who do we want to start toying with this deck with?
This I think we all kind of agree that this deck plays very well into the skittering rats that are.
Yep.
So both Spike Claw and Skittershank. But now that I've put it into my brain, Thundrick is intriguing because now you can have Thundrick do his lethal hexes, and you can have the Balloon Boy do his lethal hexes. Just lethals everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, there could be something there.
Yeah.
The rats were where my mind went first. For sure.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of pairings that could be there. Jerod, what do we give it for new player rating?
Yeah, so I think it's got to be a bronze just because there's a whole lot going on here.
Yeah. The domains.
Between the domains and trying to balance those, between trying to figure out whether you should be damaging your own fighters or damaging the enemy fighters, like when to do that, how to do that best. I mean, I'm not going to say that the deck doesn't have teeth, but it is not immediately apparent.
The teeth don't just bite you. That's the thing.
Should be used, yeah, right.
The teeth don't just bite your opponent; they bite you.
Yeah.
So
the one I did think of another warband that might want this, and that's the Dread Pageant.
Yeah,
because of all the pain. Because of all there's a good chance that you'll get 6 wound counters out.
Yeah,
and then they get the Inspire. And Hadzu with his just push people in any direction reaction instead of a knockback.
Yeah, it could be something.
Or drive back. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be brutally honest, and just put it out there. This is probably one of my least favorite Rivals decks that we've seen.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm not saying, I'm sure that there's some mad scientists out there. There are a few nuggets that I really do like, but just as a total cohesive rival deck, it doesn't synergize to me in the fact that domains are so difficult to play because they persist and you want to gain the most you can out of that domain. But as soon as you play another one, they go away. And then if you're playing against someone else that's running domains, which is rare, but it does happen, it completely negates the plan that you're trying to do. And some of these objectives need these domains up and running to get stuff done. The only reason that I would even tinker with it is because I do think that the additional damage that can be pulled out of this deck is something that you would look for, but it's just not my favorite. So
cool.
With that, anything else on
I'm genuinely excited to see what some of the mad scientists in the Underworlds community put together with this thing.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's looking at this and going, "Oh, this is really tasty," but that is not any of us.
Yeah, not right now. We also have not had it in hand for very long.
Nope, certainly haven't. But with that, we'll wrap up Rimewyrm or Rimewyrm Bite and move on to Parasite. And we're back. And we are now going to talk about Hungering Parasite. And this Rivals Universal deck does have a plot card. This Rivals deck plot card, when using cards from Hungering Parasite Rivals deck, show this card to your opponent in the Reveal Warband step and use these rules in the game. After deploying your Warband, give one friendly fighter your Bane of Heroes upgrade. Wait a minute. An
it's
upgrade?
A Bane of Heroes upgrade, Jason.
Wait. Do not spend any glory to give it to the fighter. When the fighter has one or more Bane of Heroes upgrades is taken out of action, you break that upgrade. And in an Inspire step, if your Bane of Heroes upgrade is in your power discard pile, give that upgrade to a friendly fighter or an enemy fighter that is adjacent to a friendly fighter.
Okay.
Then you get this upgrade, which is the Bane of Heroes, and it looks like a parasite swirly thing. Just going to face hugger you. This upgrade can only be used as described on its plot card and cannot be included in or added to any decks. Does that mean that I'm running 11 upgrades in this deck?
At least 11.
At least 11.
But this doesn't really go in your deck.
Oh, it doesn't?
It's just on a fighter.
You just
So
use it.
this upgrade, fighters are staggered while within 1 hex of this fighter. He's
Fighters.
a mobile staggering Thundrick.
But I think that includes itself. Because
it doesn't
fighters are staggered while within 1 hex of this
You're
fighter.
within 1 hex of yourself.
Everything.
Yep.
We're
Okay.
just staggering everything.
Nice. Okay.
When does stagger happen, though? Like, does it happen after the move? I think it does.
I think it would. Yeah.
So I'm getting a reroll wherever I go.
Yeah.
But I'm also, you're getting a reroll against me. So,
Yeah.
This fighter.
It is the bane of heroes.
It is. It's the bane of being a hero. This fighter is uninspired and cannot be inspired. Oh, ouch. Rough. At the end of the action phase, if this fighter's player chooses a fighter within 1 hex of this fighter, deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter. So I can choose a fighter within 1 hex of this fighter and deal a damage to the chosen fighter.
What if you're by yourself?
Oh, no. That would be bad.
Yep. That is a hungry parasite.
I have to choose a fighter.
Chompy.
It's not even a reaction.
Nope.
Ooh.
This is spicy.
Heavy is the crown. Okay, so that automatically happens. I'm going to put it on a fighter.
Yep.
We're going to select this fighter, and then we're going to go off to the races on the objectives. And Jerod, where are we going to start with our objectives?
Yeah, so we're going to start with Beyond Exhausted. Score this in an end phase if the fighter that has your Warband's Bane of Heroes upgrade has 1 or more move and or charge tokens. So whether that's your fighter or an enemy fighter that you have given the upgrade to has a move and or charge token, you get 1 glory.
And it's so if you have multiple charged fighters, it's probably going to happen even if you lose a fighter, because you can put Bane of Heroes onto a new fighter during the Inspire step.
Yep.
It's pretty good. Pretty good way to get it started. Trace, do you have anything else that could influence what cards we're going to take?
I have a deadly influence.
What?
Nice.
No way.
It's a deadly influence. Surge. Score this immediately after an activation in which the fighter that has your Warband's Bane of Heroes upgrade was staggered or dealt damage by a lethal hex. Don't you stagger yourself?
I mean, yeah, if every there might be an English thing there, was staggered versus is staggered. I think the staggering would have to occur during the activation and not just be a state of being staggered. Might fall into the went on guard versus is on guard conversation. It could be as easy as you just score it, but it seems more likely that you would have to move your fighter through a snare hex or something.
Can you stagger an already staggered fighter?
Yes.
You can. But I also really like the fact that I can just run through a lethal hex. It's the theme of the night. Just bam.
Yeah.
You can also
But it doesn't have to be a lethal hex.
Just run through a snare hex.
You could run through a snare hex.
Be doubly staggered.
No, I want to hurt myself, and then I have to choose myself to hurt myself again.
And then you give the Bane of Heroes upgrade to another person, and you just do it all over again for no reason.
Yes, because I am searching far and wide for the next objective. And to score this in an end phase if the fighter that has your Warband's Bane of Hero upgrade is holding an objective. If that objective is in enemy territory, gain an additional glory point. Again, the way that this upgrade works and it breaks and comes back, you could legit get somebody over there. Your opponent's not even thinking about it because they don't have the Bane of Heroes, and now I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could put this on an enemy fighter holding an objective in enemy territory and score 2 glory for it.
What? How could you possibly do that if I'm standing next to them?
Yep.
That's amazing.
Just move a fighter next to an enemy fighter.
I love it. I love it. I love it. The shenanigans of me influencing you with my parasite.
Yep.
Whew,
I just want to make a comment about the art on this card really quick.
Yep.
It really looks like Farstrider fell into Winnie the Pooh's honeypot.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and that kind of art style, like it continues. Like everything, it looks like a giant glob of malignant honey.
Yeah.
In all of the art.
That one in particular, though, just because of the way the lighting falls. But
yeah,
it's really,
it's good stuff.
So where do we want to start with Gambits? Jerod, where are we going?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Sudden Swap, and I fell in love with the similar card from Malevolent Mask. Choose 2 friendly fighters. If one chosen fighter has your Warband's Bane of Heroes upgrade, you can remove each chosen fighter from the battlefield, then place each fighter in the hex the other fighter occupied when you chose them. So if you got this on an enemy fighter and they've decided to run away, you can just teleport them back. Be like, no, actually, you come back over here. Thank you. And at the same time, you're sending one of your fighters deep into enemy territory. Could get up to some shenanigans. Yeah.
Yeah, teleports are always fun. Replacing people and moving them around is really cool, especially from a Gambit. The next one is the Tempting Lure. Reaction: play this after a fighter's move action. Choose a friendly fighter. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex closer to that fighter. If the fighter that made the move action has 1 or more Bane of Hero upgrades, push the chosen fighter up to 3 hexes closer. So we love pushes, and this push is pushing someone closer.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3 closer. And I'm really gaining good activation economy with my Bane of Hero.
Yeah.
So Trace, bring us home on the Gambits.
The curse empowers.
Ooh, it does?
Yeah. The first range 1 or range 2 attack action in the next activation step made by a friendly fighter has the crit Grievous 1.
Little
nice
power boost.
However, +1 damage to the first attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation step. Instead, if that fighter has 1 or more Bane of Heroes upgrades. +1
nice.
damage.
So just guaranteed +1 damage.
Yep.
If I have the heroes.
Yep. Okay. And it doesn't say if that fighter has your Bane of Heroes upgrades. So if you're playing the mirror and they throw their Bane of Heroes upgrade onto one of your fighters, you can be like, well, I guess that fighter's going to get extra damage.
That's really cool. I kind of like that. That the curse giveth and taketh away. So that'll get us in the Gambits. That'll get us set up through objectives and Gambits. Where do we want to go for upgrades? Trace, we'll stay with you.
Let me see. Which one of these do I want to talk about? We'll start with Despairing Strength.
Yeah, we'll just keep it going, right?
Just keep it going. I just got to pull the card up real quick because
I think you'd be surprised. It's very similar to what we just talked about.
Yeah. Yes. This fighter's range 1 attack actions have crit Grievous 1. If this fighter has 1 or more Bane of Heroes upgrades, +1 damage to the fighter's range 1 attack actions instead.
Spicy. +2 damage.
Or 2 Grievous. I really
crit
do
Grievous
like.
2.
I do like that. If the Bane of Heroes, if you doing something else with it, these cards are still help your warband.
Yeah.
But with Sense 1 in a Rivals deck, have we seen +2 damage?
That's been a while.
That is
since Gnarlwood.
It's pretty tasty.
Yep.
Jerod, what else do we have?
Yeah, so Frenetic Efforts. Reaction, use this after this fighter makes a stun action. What? Why would I make a stun action? Well, hold on, I'll tell you. Push this fighter 1 hex. After that push, if this fighter has 1 or more Bane of Heroes upgrades, this fighter makes a range 1 attack action. So, hear me out.
Okay.
I'm not just going to make a stun.
What?
I'm going to make a barge.
No one has ever done this in the history of Underworlds.
Not that I need to, because if I have the Bane of Heroes upgrade on, I'm staggering everybody that's within 1 hex of me anyway. But I'm going to do it just because. So I'm going to move, and I'm going to stagger with the stun action. And then I'm going to push 1 hex. And then I'm going to make an attack action. So I've effectively made a charge, but I don't have a charge token. So do you know what that means I can do? Could do it again.
Yep.
As long as I have the Bane of Heroes upgrade.
Yep.
So you get to monologue yourself around.
But you will have a move token from the barge.
Yeah,
action.
but you...
Yeah, but you just barge again.
You can't make super actions if you have a move token.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thing.
Fair.
But, you know, I still like your thought because you're doing all these things. And, like, you can combo it and you can stun somebody, right? Because you push in, you stun them, you barge them, and then you push away and you attack somebody else.
Yeah.
Just also remember that after you kill a fighter with this attack action, after you stun somebody, just place your feature token. Because none of us do it.
I'm sorry.
Just place it.
This may be different. I'm on page 30 of the rulebook. Move action. A fighter with 1 or more move tokens cannot make a charge super action. So you can barge all day long. Barge while I sing this song.
So if I have a move token,
you can
still barge.
I think so. Barge is page 38. Let's find out.
You know what this also doesn't say?
What? What doesn't it say?
It does not restrict to a large fighter.
Oh, it's Mollog. Mollog and a Mollog. When your fighter makes a barge super action, that fighter makes a move action, then a stun action, then stagger that fighter. Once the fighter that made the barge super action has been staggered, the barge super action is complete. Yep. So you can make the barge action if you have a move token.
So this is a really cool way to get around being move locked and not being able to charge.
Yes.
Cool. I love it. I like it. I want some more of it.
Feels frenetic, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to bring us home with the last upgrade to do Instinctive Reprisal. Reaction, use this during an enemy fighter's successful attack action that targeted this fighter. After the deal damage step, if the attacker is adjacent to this fighter, deal 1 damage to the attacker. If this fighter has 1 or more Bane of Hero upgrades, roll 1 attack dice on a roll of a hammer, so 50-50, deal 2 damage instead.
30. A 33%. 1 in 3. It's not a hammer or a crit.
Hammer? Oh, whatever. 50%.
Still.
50% of the time it works, 33% of the time works, 42% of the time works all the time.
That's right.
Don't tell me the odds. I like it. I think it's cool. It's a good way to do damage, especially if you have a fighter that cannot be driven back and you're dealing damage. So that brings us to kind of where we want to start off our hand, we want to start off the game. For playstyle, this is aggro control. But really the playstyle, Jerod, in the pre-show, you kind of went through how you would go through this deck.
So we picked a lot of our early objectives based on the idea that you're going to put the Bane of Heroes upgrade onto a fighter that you don't care as much about. And that way you can run them through the snare hex to stagger them. You can run them through the lethal hex to damage them, whatever it is that you need to do. And then just be reckless with them and hopes that the Bane of Hero upgrade comes out. While all of that is happening, you're taking the glory that you've acquired. You're Voltroning up one of your other fighters, hopefully with the Despairing Strength and Frenetic Efforts, so that now you can have a hero full Bane of Heroes. I'm just thinking about Duval, right? So Duval is 3 smash for 2 damage when he's uninspired. He gets Despairing Strength on. Now he's 3 smash, 3 damage. Still got 4 wounds. He's moved 4. So he's barging and attacking all day. And then, Trace, you said it, Mollog, right? So you put the Bane of Heroes onto the Spite Shroom.
Mm-hmm.
right in the front and run it through a snare X. Let him get staggered. Let him get punked. Mollog, you can bring him back, right? So who cares? And then you use this glory, spend it on Mollog, tool him up. Could be tasty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a really I like the idea to kind of Bane of Heroes, a smaller fighter at first, get it going, and then give it to the real hero. The only real downside again is that you're uninspired. So, again,
but the control aspect comes in. Sorry to interrupt.
You're good.
In that, like, you can put the Bane of Heroes upgrade on your opponent, so they just inspired somebody. Oh, you just killed somebody. I'm gonna move my Bane of Heroes upgrade, or I'll just kill my fighter that's wearing it because losing a glory for that fighter going down is worth being able to uninspire this fighter that you just inspired.
Think about all the dwarf warbands that gain a wound. So if you hit them one time and then you give them the upgrade, and then they die.
Yeah, and there's cards that we didn't go over, like a Curse Divided, right? You run in, you hit somebody, you do damage to them, and let's say they're vulnerable, then you break it, you flip them back to uninspired. You break Bane of Heroes with this card, give it to that fighter that's adjacent in the inspired step, then making them uninspired, which taking them out of action, which then you can then place the Bane of Heroes again. I really think that this deck is going to play like Void Curse. Like there's going to be some really awesome pairings that go along with it. Just for boards, like this is the one you want, one Snare Hex, just to kind of get you started with the stagger. Like you can stagger yourself. When you're playing against it, like reverse tag. Jerod, you want to elaborate on that comment?
Yeah, I mean, just try to stay away from the fighter with the Bane of Heroes upgrade. Let your opponent deal with the brunt of having the Bane of Heroes upgrade, having to deal with the fact that they're staggered, that they're uninspired.
Yeah.
And I mean, and generally just avoid it, right? Like if you can do things to not kill the fighter that has the Bane of Heroes upgrade, then you're going to make your opponent waste their activations to take that fighter out in order to pass the Bane of Heroes upgrade off to another fighter.
Yeah, I like it. You mentioned Crimson Court, so we think that that's a good Nemesis pairing. I also really want to try this with Hrothgorn. You know, he hasn't really seen much play in our area, but I think you do the kitty, you give the Bane of Hero to Thrafnir. Yeah,
nice.
I'm trying to remember his name. Thrafnir. Charge him in, do your thing with Kitty. And when he goes down, then you hopefully have tooled up Hrothgorn. I understand that he's going to be uninspired, but that's okay. I think we can live with some of these upgrades and still hit really, really hard. Just to give you some ideas to start us, really excited about this deck. But Trace, what's the new player rating?
I think it's silver. And honestly, that's just a stab in the dark because we don't really know. Like just talking through it, we've talked about a bunch of different scenarios where this might work, you know? So we are by no means experts, so I'm sure somebody will find some really spicy jank to play with this. Yeah, I think it, but from our perspective, it's silver. There's a lot of tools in the toolbox. You just got to figure out how to use them.
Yeah, I just think there's a lot of great things here. The Fury Bound Leaps is the same thing that we were talking about, where there's a reaction and you remove a move token. So they do a barge super action. You run in there. Everyone gets staggered anyway because of Bane of Heroes, but then you remove your move token and you're kind of set, ready to go.
Now you can charge.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like it a lot. I think there's a lot of shenanigans to be had here. Excited to get it on the table and try it out. So with that, we'll close out this segment and come back for the closing statement.
And we're back, and that will wrap up the 63rd episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. As always, we want to say thanks for taking the time to listen. We are Battle Mallet 1 on X. We are Battle Mallet PCast on Instagram, Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook, at Battle Mallet Podcast on YouTube. We appreciate all of the likes, follows, and subscribes that you give us there. It is the best way to get our content out to people other than word of mouth. Again, thanks to Games Workshop for sending us an advanced copy of Wintermaw for our review and fun. But I think that's it. No major shout outs. We've been rip-roaring, running through some content. We still have 2 of the revamped warbands to get through. So those episodes will be coming out sometime.
It's just so much. So much stuff. Like, so exciting to play at the local meetups holy fire hose.
Yeah, hit your local game store today when this episode drops to pick up your Zandaras and the Rimewyrm relics, and then
pre-order this
put
box.
Your pre-orders in for this box. And then talk to your local gaming store. We've seen whispers and rumors about the next OP kit, so talk to your local gaming store, see if they'll order that for Underworlds. Run an event. We have an event pack on our website that walks you through how to run a tournament. And we're on our Discord, so come find us. We'd be happy to chat with you about how to do all of that. But I think that's it. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, I'm a butcher.
I'm a holy spasm.
I'm a candlestick maker.
This is Jerod signing out.
This is Trey signing out. I'm not a butcher or a baker or a candlestick maker. I'm a holy spasm.
You are a holy spasm, Trace. Jason's having a holy spasm right now.
I am. I just we've been recording too much. I'm giddy. So I'm Jason Table New Murray. Thanks for being here, but get the hell out of here.
Peace.
Go Bells.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats. That's getting edited out.
Why is that?
Who knows, Jason? It's one of life's many mysteries.